From UFOs to psychic powers and government conspiracies, history is riddled with unexplained events. You can turn back now, or learn the stuff they don't want you to know.
Hey guys, you can call me Voodoo. Been listening to your show for many years. Just recently been listening to where you've been asking for scary stories, and also had a discussion recently about reoccurring dreams. I've got one that's a little bit of both for you. From the ages of about 10 until about 15 years old, I'd have a reoccurring dream. When I was younger, it was probably 3 to 5 times a week. As I got older, it was probably once or twice a month. The dream is always the same. An older version of me was at a party, dancing with a lady, and at some point we decided to go outside and stand on the patio and have a conversation and look up at the sky. She gives me a kiss on the cheek and walks back into the party. I linger on the patio for a little while and see what looks like a glowing something in the air. This thing starts moving closer and closer and closer to me, eventually striking me in the head and knocking me unconscious. Pan out to see my body laying on the ground, and the thing that hit me in the head is a silver orb, which then opens up and a little glowing ball comes out of it and enters into my ear, at which point I wake up. Terrified me for years. Then I kind of came to grips with it, eventually stopped having the dream, and ever since I stopped having the dream, I've had a reoccurring ear infection in my right ear. I'm now 38 years old, and it continues to happen. Don't know if there's anything to it, but thought you guys might be interested. Love the show. Thanks.
There we go. Message from Voodoo, of all people and places.
Voodoo.
Voodoo.
The voodoo that you do. Yes, yes, the voodoo that you do.
Yeah. So, first of all, a reoccurring dream that involves a UAP, a very small UAP that makes physical striking contact to your head, and then then you have essentially an out-of-body dream experience where you've got your own body in third person, and then you're watching the UAP open up and another little floaty thing is coming out and going into your ear. So it's almost like not quite the abduction experience, but the probe-like experience where something is being inserted into your body during an encounter from the stars.
It reminds me of that movie Phantasm. This like creepy Undertaker-looking dude launches this like weird silver orb that then like shoots out knives and like slices into the people's like drills into their brains. It's a little less grisly version of that, but that was immediately what I thought of when I heard like little silver orb going into brains.
Mm-hmm. And then after having these dreams over the course of years and years and years, to have some kind of physical malady affecting the same place where this thing was affecting you in your dreams. I don't know, guys.
Mm-hmm.
Gotta convince me that coincidence.
Right. I've got to introduce you to that professor one day, Matt. So I have a theory, and Voodoo, I don't know if this will be helpful or not, but I do think it is pretty solid, and I would be interested to hear what you think of this. Is it possible that your subconscious mind is alerting you to something, or was alerting you to something that it clocked about your physical health through symbols? It communicated with you through, dare I say, memes or archetypes. I think that I would hazard that is a very, I won't say 100%, but that is very likely what could be going on, because other people throughout history have reported similar ideas. One of the most common would be, people have the anxiety dream often of something being wrong with their teeth, right? Teeth falling out or cracking, et cetera, et cetera. But in some cases, that's also your subconscious mind saying, hey, you have a cavity or something like that, right? Our minds are very, very, very intelligent, and our conscious minds are only a piece of the iceberg there. So it may be that some part of you was trying to communicate with another part of you, which I find endlessly fascinating. Check out our episode series on dreams if you haven't had the chance to do so yet.
I'm going to throw some more wrinkles
Agreed.
in, you guys. Yes, agreed as well. I talked to Voodoo just shortly before we started rolling here. The dreams began when he was around 7 or 8 years old, and they just kept happening. So it was always, he says, always an older woman in this case that he was with that always gave him that kiss before this whole, situation went down with the UAP, starting around 7 or 8 years old. And then around the time he gets to 16, 17 years old, just before, the end of high school, he stops having these dreams altogether. But what coincides with that time is when he began scuba diving a whole lot. And when he began scuba diving is when he started having the recurring ear infections. So the dreams, scuba diving is here, before it are the dreams, after it are the ear infections.
Well, isn't scuba diving, can't you get like swimmer's ear and stuff? Or like have some issues because of the pressure? I mean, it seems like that's the differentiating factor there is the scuba diving.
But look, to my mind, and I know I'm probably incorrect here, and look, you say what you want, that's fine. Think what you want, wherever you are. To my mind, it's very strange that the decision to begin scuba diving and the training and everything is at that middle point between almost these precognitive dreams that something's going to happen with his ear, or something's going into his ear that shouldn't be there, and then it actually happening because of, the activity that he's partaking in. I don't know. It's weird to me.
Well, a self-fulfilling prophecy is still a prophecy, is it not? I would argue. And then additionally, I think we made a pretty, not a solid case, obviously, but we made a pretty good speculative case that time could work differently in dreams. And nobody really wants to throw around the P word, precognition, in academia, but that just because a current academic culture poo-poos a thing doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Keep in mind, this is the same civilization that beat the living Christ out of a guy for suggesting that doctors should maybe wash their hands before they put them inside people. And that guy died in an asylum. I think it's quite possible that there's more to, well, I'm certain there's more to the science of dreams and the function of the brain during sleep. There's more to it than current society is aware. But I would also be interested, that's a really good point about scuba diving, because it can, it can cause ear problems if you're not up to snuff on your safety precautions and your guidelines. The swimmer's ear is a real thing. People can have fluid and blood leakage in the middle ear, and that can lead to infections if it's left untreated. And it's just the time, Matt. It's the timeline. You know what I mean? That's what's interesting, because these dreams didn't start after the scuba stuff, right?
Yeah. But now, later in his life, as he's scuba diving more and more, he's getting a little more adventurous with the types of dives he's going on. And Voodoo says one of the most interesting things he does now is night diving. This is not something I was aware of. Perhaps I'm not curious enough, and I've never been certified to go scuba diving. But the act of going into the water, going fairly deep down on a scuba dive in the night, where the only lights you have are the flashlights and, the lights on the other divers and yourself. So when you look out on the seafloor, wherever you are, all you can see are these little pools of light from all the other divers. And Voodoo described it very much like being on another planet, exploring another planet in the dark with only your torch, if you will. And for some reason, my mind takes that back to this, again, unidentified aerial phenomena in his dream that is exploring planet Earth and interacts with him. He's saying you can when you're on these night dives, you can see fish and turtles as they're sleeping. You can see some of the anemones that will, or the anemone that will glow. If you shine your light on certain smaller fish, a larger fish will be alerted because they can now see that other fish and they will make a meal of it. And there's something also connected with that to me of being on another planet exploring with this other vision that he had of this thing coming from the stars, directly from the stars, to visit him specifically. I don't know. Look, I'm over here just analyzing Voodoo's dreams, but I just found it to be compelling, guys.
Agreed. And we've been getting a lot of folks writing in with strange encounters in the world of dream. Some of them are downright terrifying stories and experiences. And, you know, I don't know about you guys, but the version of reality I subscribe to doesn't make a huge distinction between the world of imagination and the world of physicality. So to me, if something happens in a dream, especially if you believe in a multiversal kind of interpretation of the world or the universe, to me, if something happens in a dream, that means it's on some level real. And if our dreams are just a way for another part of the mind to hold up a mirror or to make commentary on something that's happening or some interpretation of something that's happening, then that also is no less real. Your mind was telling you something, Voodoo. That is not an opinion. That's a fact. Your mind was telling you something. It's just tough to figure out what that was and if there is a correlation to the events in the waking world or in this version of it.
Well, guys, that's all I've really got. Voodoo, if you're interested, you can head over to places like Psychology Today. Read all about recurring dreams, or the Sleep Foundation, which is, you know, a place where you can go to learn about stuff. They've got pretty good bibliographies and references at the bottom of the Sleep Foundation Recurring Dreams article. So, you know, it's worth looking into. I don't know. It's kind of the stuff that you expect. It's things that we've talked about before. Like you said, Ben, the losing teeth, nakedness, not being ready for school, flying, falling, car crashes. Mm-hmm. This dream that you told us about, Voodoo, is just unlike any recurring dream I've heard of.
I would note, we do, to be completely fair, we do have to note one thing. Post these dreams, if anything had happened to your ear, Voodoo, it would be very difficult, I think, for many people to not feel that there was some possible correlation, no matter what that thing might have been, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely. And it could just be perceived, right? Because you're making that connection, because it makes us feel better to see that pattern than for it to just be chaotic.